What do you get when you take the narrative complexity of a JRPG, mix in some fast-paced action combat in a sprawling open world, and cover it in the visual style of Breath of the Wild? The answer is a free-to-play game that is absolutely bursting at the seams with content and progression. Hello friends, my name is Livid, one half of the team behind Legacy Gaming, and today we are checking out the Eastern RPG, Genshin Impact, to determine if it's truly worth your time. I have to admit, while I'm a huge fan of games like Final Fantasy and The Last Remnant, I didn't expect a game with this heavy of an anime tone in its character design to catch my attention. But as always, I try to look past the visual styles and instead dive into the systems that either make or break a game. I tend to be even more critical with free-to-play games, purely due to the amount of content that is usually locked off behind paywalls, be that characters, story, or even core progression systems. Luckily, free means no strings attached, easy to jump in, and just as easy to jump out. So with that being said, let's hold nothing back and see what Genshin Impact is really all about. We begin with the world of Teyvat. While stylized in a way that is obviously comparable to Breath of the Wild's cel-shaded look, the world is honestly nothing short of breathtaking, and it's massive. At numerous points during my adventures, I found myself just stopping to take in the scenery, which is shockingly vast and full of life with its vibrant color palette that just puts you in a state of relaxation while playing. In Genshin Impact, you are a traveler from another world trying to reunite with your long-lost sibling as you unravel the mysteries and secrets of the world around you. You can run, swim, and even glide to just about anything you can see, minus the few barriers in place that are clearly set to allow for expansion in the future. Each main area of the world seems to be governed by a god from one of the 7 elements within the game, and the 2 areas that we have access to right now show just how large the game intends to become. Mondstadt, the region where you begin your adventures, is made up of sprawling countrysides, cliffside vistas, and architecture that reminds me of medieval French and Gothic themes. On the other hand, Liyue is an even larger region, comprising of very traditional Chinese architecture, scenic lookouts from many of the iconic land formations in China, and water features that honestly left me constantly just wanting to swim. While completing my main story objectives, I found myself constantly wandering off the beaten path to take on packs of enemies, complete interesting side quests, collect vital resources, and even engage in the thousands of puzzles scattered across the world. Puzzles and secrets that can range anywhere from picking up some suspiciously arranged crops that reveal a hidden chest, to long-form puzzles across multiple areas on the map. Each takes you on a journey complete with a sprinkling of lore that always finds a way to work its way into your experience. Story-wise, it's pretty decent. It's not a home run, but I cared enough to actually pay attention to it, and what I experienced, I liked. Since starting the main story, I've clocked nearly 35 hours with the game, but with numerous side quests and plenty of endgame content ahead of me, I feel I've barely scratched the surface of the game. I've definitely done my research though on the endgame, and from what I've learned, there won't be any shortage of things to grind out for a while. Genshin Impact is a true multi-platform game that can be played not only on PC and console, but also on mobile, which means you're never far from your account and more adventures. What I find impressive about this game is that while it's locked at 60 FPS, I rarely ever get a drop in frames. Seriously, this game's performance, for the amount of visual fidelity, visual effects, and even enemies on the screen at times, rarely skips a beat. And when it does, I didn't find myself dropping more than 1 to 2 frames. There were some occasional pop-ins, but even things like the projectiles in this game continue on for such large distances without losing any fidelity, and they still hit their targets. Now this all brings us to combat, obviously the most enticing element of any JRPG. And while it may seem a bit shallow at the onset, the further you push into the game, the more combat begins to expand. The entire system revolves around elemental synergies between multiple characters that you can swap between, mid-battle. Each character has an element they specialize in, as well as a specific kit at their disposal, comprised of talents, passives, 2 abilities, and unique attack patterns. At first, I thought the 2 abilities would get boring, as I'm used to more dynamic skill sets from things like MMOs. But as you build out a team of 4 characters from the list of 20 plus and growing, you'll be constantly swapping between them and comboing their abilities together, resulting in an effective set of 8 skills on rotations. Genshin Impact makes this combat system a bit easier for a more casual player by ensuring all elements can chain to one another, ensuring a combo is always available. But as you get deeper into your gear and bonuses, you'll find that effective rotations on specific combos can yield way better results, leaving room for all types of players, especially those that like to min and max. Certain enemies and puzzles will require specific elemental types to take down or break their shields, meaning a rotation in one specific battle may not be the same for the next. It makes swapping out specific characters a requirement to effectively beating encounters further into the game. Visually, your screen will be consumed with effects as you are constantly swapping through your skills in battle, resulting in a really natural flow to combat. It's one of the few times I've enjoyed a simple combat system and recognized that more complexity would actually have a negative effect, essentially pulling me out of that experience. There is also a co-op component to the game, but don't expect you and your friend to download the game and immediately hop in together. Co-op is unfortunately gated behind reaching Adventurer rank 16. Now this can take you anywhere from 8 to 12 hours, and is one of the things I didn't like about the game, especially if you and your friend are progressing at different speeds and trying to link up at 16. The benefit to co-op, however, is being able to have multiple characters out on the field at once, leading you to seamless elemental combos. If you and a friend play together, you control 2 characters that you swap between, while your friend also controls 2. This becomes split even more once you get up to 4 players in the mix, meaning you can all play your favorite character and not worry about swapping at all. Co-op is easily one of the best things about the game, and even with the leveling limitations, watching abilities pop off in tandem is a sight to behold. This leads us to progression and the overall loot system within the game, and I'm going to try to break it down with broad strokes here. The game constantly throws loot at you, and the pace never slows down. Foods, crafting materials, experience books, weapons, artifacts, and more. It's actually rather daunting at first, as you're forced to deal with the sheer volume, and while most of what you pick up isn't actually going to be equipped and used, it is all incredibly valuable for progression. Think of your character, their weapon, and their artifacts as a furnace that constantly needs a source of fuel to keep powering it up. These items of lower and equal tiers get infused into your gear to constantly increase its power level, leading you to hitting harder and surviving longer. Whenever you do anything in the game, it awards loot, meaning finding chests in the open world, completing puzzles, taking down a boss, completing trials, and more. This loot always consists of things from the following categories: various tiers of experience books used for leveling your characters, different tiers of weapons or artifacts, or in-game or digital store currency. With all this loot, you obviously need a place to keep it all. And for being a free-to-play game, I was actually surprised at the amount of bag space the game gives you. A whopping 30,000 inventory spaces, something that could have easily been put behind a paywall, but thankfully wasn't. So for all of you that like to pick up everything you see, go for it. Seriously, it'll pay off in the end. Sadly, the loot system, aside from weapons, aren't visually showcased anywhere on your character. Most of the items just change your stats, with artifacts being the items in the game that provide your traditional set bonuses, similar to other RPG games. You'll probably only end up caring about a handful of weapons and artifacts that suit your playstyle for that specific character, with the rest, as I mentioned earlier, getting consumed to power up those that you want to use. While this method of progression may not be visually engaging in that your characters will look almost identical to your friends' characters, it never really bothered me, and the implementation felt solid. Overall, if I had to put the progression into one sentence, I'd say it's a marathon of an RPG, not a sprint, with a carefully laid out path of rewards to keep combat interesting and help you stay engaged with the world. Now, the caveat to this game is that it's free to play, and in particular, it falls within the gacha game genre. And no, that doesn't mean, hey, we made you spend a lot of money, gotcha. The term for this type of game means that when you finally get that character, weapon, or artifact you've been out to get, you are finally able to say, gotcha. That doesn't mean that these types of games don't often make elements extremely tedious in order to encourage the player to pay money to speed things along. This luckily isn't the case, and something I'm happy to report. Out of thousands of games in this market, Genshin Impact has managed to have one of the most fair free-to-play models I've seen. Sure, you'll be tempted to spend money to be able to roll for character packs, weapons, and more throughout the game's appropriately titled wish system, as these make up the primary monetization systems within the game. But the beauty is these things are completely achievable with relative ease by doing just about anything in the game. Nearly everything from opening a chest and completing achievements to taking on the hardest content in the game will award you Primo Gems. allowing you to get your hands on ample premium currency to enjoy these systems freely. Are there whales that will spend a ton of money to get a massive head start right away? Of course, but with no sort of PvP or competitive element, it hardly matters. This is a game where you can truly play and enjoy in your free time without the feeling or need to purchase anything at all, while the developers continue to add more and more content. The wish packs even tell you the odds straight up on what your chances are of pulling each and everything in the packs. The results are definitely mixed, and luck certainly plays a factor when opening your wishes. Only spending currency earned in-game, I've pulled some very rare stuff, while a few of my friends have gotten great to mildly disappointing results. So it really is a mixed bag. There are a couple other things to spend money on in the game, such as a premium version of the free Battle Pass that doesn't actually seem all that rewarding, and some other passive benefits such as awarding you extra daily rewards at login, but nothing crazy, so I'm overall pleased with the monetization model here. So there you have it, folks. Genshin Impact summed up in broad strokes. It's a fast-paced JRPG that seems to have more to do than most AAA games. But is it worth your time? The answer for me? It's yes. The game has a ton of potential, and with new regions, characters, weapons, and more in the works, I'm happy to report that it's a genuinely fun experience, especially in co-op. For a game that seemingly came out of nowhere and a team of 500 developers continuing to work on the game behind the scenes, I've no doubt that it'll enjoy its successful run. We hope that this video helped you figure out if Genshin Impact is truly worth your time. And honestly, with it being free, just go try it for yourselves. If you enjoy this series and want more worth your time videos in your feed, go ahead and hit the thumbs up and consider subscribing to Legacy Gaming. You can also check us out on Discord. Our community of over 6,000 members is spread across dozens of great games, so click that link below and become part of the Legacy. My name is Livid, and for everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.